Good to go.
So that link change now?
So I'm about to send it because I just got the live link. So I'm going to go on the PD page and the plays page, and I'll just post the live link. So far, it's just one. It's my wife.
Bill, how are you? Good, doing well.
I haven't seen you in a long time. It's been a minute. I mean, how's your summer been?
Quiet, no board meetings, as you know, right? Which is not atypical for us in the summer, right? Third doing with Mike on this.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay. Good. Good stuff.
what's new?
Good.
Is Roseanne retired?
And.
Roseanne?
Roseanne, yeah.
Roseanne, okay. Karen told me she's retiring in April.
She told me that a year ago. What? To let her go?
No.
Hey, John.
Pay that union dues for this?
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, we wait for you, no doubt. Hey, John.
Me and Paul, both.
All right, Dave.
Hey, Steve. Steve. Just making sure you hear you back there.
Wait, sir.
How about with the mic on?
Megan's watching the stream. She's like, hi, Paul.
Bye, Megan.
hoping I don't need to use the microphone because it's kind of pinned down to the desk, and I'm a mobile kind of talker as I present. So we're also live on YouTube, I guess, right? So we're presenting to people that can't get here to see it, or it's difficult getting it out. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm sure I know not on the face of the group. My name is Mike Crosky. I'm the Chief of Police in Morris Plains. I'm in my 25th year of service with the borough. More than 5 of that, the last 5 have been as your Chief of Police. And probably beyond being married to my beautiful wife and my 3 boys, it's the greatest honor that I've had in my lifetime is to work in the borough and take care of this community and now serve as the Chief of Police. With me this evening are Lieutenant Robert Gill, the Lieutenant in our Support Service Division, and Dave Schultz. Dave will get into his bio and credentials, and I just want to reach out and thank Paul. Thank you for helping with the audio visual, because that's not my skill set. And Mr. Houston for the live stream with us. So, how did we get to where we are today? So, in 2022, I wrote a strategic plan for the borough. 5 years of a look at what the police department needed. It entailed equipment and personnel, and we've checked those off the list. The Borough Council has been very supportive of adding staff. We all know the increases that have come to Morris Plains, residential and commercial, and the volume of traffic, obviously. So when I started as Chief of Police, and actually in my early career with the department, starting in 2001, we've always been a static 17 police officers. And obviously, all of you can see the need for the increase in law enforcement service in the borough as we expand. So again, thank you to the Borough Council and the Mayor for supporting the idea. We hired an 18th police officer. We created a traffic safety unit. So we have an officer that's strictly here Monday through Friday, doing nothing but traffic enforcement in the borough. And as of October 16th, if all goes well, we'll hire our 19th police officer to assume an evening role in that traffic position. So part of that 2022 strategic plan, like I said, the third prong of that was the infrastructure of the department. We're in a building from 1942, right? There was a fire at some point, rebuilt, and then in 1992, they put an addition on the building, adding a wing, so giving us a little bit more space. But as the borough's grown, the department has seen the need to grow as well. And I do invite you at any time. You have my email, my card's on the desk. If you can't take one of our last remaining tours, it really does injustice to come in and look in the building and see it for yourself. So kind of the start of our project was addressing the current and future challenges of the police department. There's some officer safety issues. We're running out of elbow room. It's getting a little tight inside the building. There's some Department of Corrections. There's a state agency known as the Department of Corrections. They oversee our processing and holding area. So we have some compliance issues there. And of course, technology is a major driving factor of everything we do with law enforcement. We have cameras throughout the borough, computers, body-worn cameras, so we need the infrastructure to support all that growth as well. If you've been to the municipal building, you've seen how kind of oversubscribed we are for that location. Parking can sometimes be difficult, and a lot of that times, our patrol fleet is 6 patrol cars, there's 3 administrative vehicles, and then every officer who's not assigned a take-home personal use business vehicle, administrative vehicle, has to come to the department in their own personal car. So we add a significant amount of cars to the site every day. And obviously there's operational issues and the visitor access. So there really were, for me, 3 reasons why this has become a project that I was invested in. You know, when again, I do invite you to come in and see the space for yourself. But you know, when you come into the municipal building, this is one of the first reasons why I've encountered issues with people that come in that are victims of crimes, witnesses to offenses, just need to file a report for documentation purposes. When you walk into the lobby of the municipal building, this is where you sit at this table and wait for an officer to come in and have your report taking, or until we can escort you to another room in the building. So again, one of the reasons was obviously privacy of our citizens, the services that we're able to provide to all of you. So we're looking for, with renovations, to have the opportunity to add space where there would be a small interview room out the front of the building. That way, administrative staff member can come out, escort the individual into a private room. So that way, when you came in to pay taxes, the dog license, whatever other borough business they had, they weren't encountering a victim who was in this upset state, a witness to an incident, or just generally bumping into the neighborhood. And that becomes the talk of whatever local town event. Oh, I saw so-and-so at the police department today, I wonder what was going on. So we're looking to ensure that privacy. I talked about the Department of Corrections, New Jersey State Department of Corrections. They have over 50 standards that pertain to holding cells and processing room areas. The state does not recognize our facility as a processing room or holding area. They don't check any of the boxes. They just kind of move along and say the fact you have some place for people to sit, but this is your up top left, where my officer sits, and that's as close as they get to sit to a prisoner that they're arrested for some type of offense. So we resolve, you can see next to the desk is an eye bolt that we handcuff the individual to restrain their movement. When they're done with the processing questions and we have to hold them for a period of time, into the holding cell, the door closes, but you can see some of the concerns here are this large pane of glass, it's not shatterproof. Inside the holding cell itself, it's just your standard kind of residential toilet. It should meet Department of Corrections standards. This is what a processing area looks like in the adjacent township. You have an area for individuals to sit on this side. There's a spit guard, because we have had officers spit on during processing. There's an area for the person who's in custody to sit. They're handcuffed to a railing underneath, and the officer sits on the other side to gain their information. A separation for officer safety. Same thing with their holding cell area. They have 2 holding cells. People that have been on the tours have commented, what happens when you have 2 people in custody? Well, we end up using multiple spaces throughout the building to securely hold somebody. In this adjacent township, they have 2 holding cells. Because if we have a male and female in custody, they have to be separated from one another. If we have juveniles in custody, they can't be in sight or sound connection with any adults. We have to move them again to another area within inside the building. There's your standard Department of Corrections approved toilet and sink apparatus. Again, pieces that can't be broken off, used as weapons. As you saw on the other slide, there's a toilet seat. There's other components of the toilet that can be broken right off. Department of Corrections standards is when somebody's taken into custody, we pull into the sally port with the vehicle, the garage door then closes, and we get out of the car with the prisoner in a secure area. Due to the increasing size of vehicles, we used to drive Ford Crown Victorias, we now drive mostly Ford Police Interceptors or Ford Explorers. You can see the area we have to maneuver in is very small. Even opening the doors to get the prisoner out of the vehicle becomes extremely difficult. And then some space constraints as well. The room on the right-hand side is our interview room slash meeting room slash meal room for the officers. That's where I hold meetings with salespeople or staff meetings with my supervisors. If that room becomes occupied for any reason, that's the only space we have to go. We have to make alternate plans. The sergeant's office is, again, just a smaller office. It used to be our interview room. You can see in the kind of the top left of the image, there's a one-way mirror, like from the old cop movies and cop TV shows. We converted that into an office space. 5 supervisors, 2 supervisors were sharing this office at one time. It was a newly created traffic unit. We have a supervisor of that unit, and then a sergeant who works the day shift and the night shift. But when the traffic sergeant and the day shift sergeant work at the same time, they're juggling space to try to get to that computer workstation. So kind of where did we start? is with our planning efforts, and this is where I'll turn it over to Dave, who'll give you his credentials as well.
All right, so, thanks, Mike. My name is Dave Schultz. I'm an architect, but I'm not the architect for the drawings that you're going to see out here, and I'll explain that in a moment. So, I am an architect and planner. I've lived with my wife Michelle in Morris Plains since 2000, so I'm a new resident, right? Because I don't have 3 generations here. Since I've been here 25 years, for 21 years, I've been on the Minutemen, Morris Minutemen EMS. On June 30th was my last shift, only because of my needs. I've been on the Board of Adjustment for 20 years. I've chaired for about 15 of those years. I was previously on the planning board. My wife was president of the museum, and I was the furniture assembler. My wife and I, my wife's also an architect, we were on the 9/11 Memorial Committee, and most recently, the mayor asked me to participate in the Affordable Housing Council, so I'm the chair of the Morris Plains Affordable Housing Council. I do all of this because I love Morris Plains. In my day job, I am a university architect for Rutgers University. I've been there for 27 years, and I do studies like this a lot, right? So I am here to help Mike explain the process, and I'm here to affirm and explain how good of a look the borough is taking at the options. Right? I have a bias on which one I like best, I'll admit, but I'm going to try to stay away from the bias and just say what a good job the looks are, and then take any questions. This is not a presentation on the design of the building, right? That would be for the architect of record. That would be for the museum group. I am here because I think this is a Morris Plains discussion. So I volunteered to help the borough out and help Mike. So what is this? What is this concept study? It's a high-level document. Work, I would call it a vision document. It's relatively inexpensive. You're not diving into the weeds. You're looking at the big picture. And I'm not going to read all this, but read the quote, please. Right? That really is why we did this. Right? It's to allow the governing body of the borough to consider strategic, financial, and physical planning options. And I think we've done that with 7 options, maybe 8, 7, and 7A are a bit different. We've done that. The Musial Group Architects, they have good experience doing police stations here. I got it from families, one of those 2. My experience, I have constructed 2 police stations, the Rutgers Newark Police Station, the Rutgers Camden Police Station, so I have some familiarity with police departments. Musial also brought in Whitman engineers to look at mechanical, fire protection, electrical, and plumbing. So, if you have a lot of time, you can read 93 pages of the original study that dived into all sorts of detail. It looked at the entirety of the building, pretty much said fire, you're gonna, that is what it is. But you can't touch air handling here without potentially affecting air handling down there. So it was a holistic look at the building. And then, by the time we put in all the graphics and all the details and all the appendices, and then sent them back for more options, we have about 250 pages of good information. I tried to compress this down into about 20 PowerPoint slides. So there's not a lot of detail here, but that's intentional. This isn't a discussion of floor plans. Everybody knows the site. And the municipal building is a nice Georgian building, right? So at one point it was just kind of a bar, and then the fire bay addition got put on, then the cross addition got put on, and it's got those classic Georgian elements. It's got the chimneys on the faux chimneys on the gable ends, and it's a nice looking building. You can see how close it is all over to property lines, right? So not a lot of elbow room. We had some conceptual ideas on the first pass. So the architects walked through the spaces with Chief Brodsky. They looked at staffing numbers. They looked at code minimum sizes of lavatories or bathrooms. They looked at Department of Corrections minimum sizes for holding cells, salary requirements. They came up with a list of space needs. And Scheme 1 looked at an addition out the back and an addition out the front. And that really didn't fit. The space needs didn't fit, so they looked at a bigger addition out the front. And unfortunately, this really begins to screw up the nice building, right? So this is kind of an odd addition that goes around towards what used to be the front door and really ruins the front entrance, right? So I would not recommend this, but it gave the square footage that the police department needed. And then we looked at schemes 3 and 4, which were variations on themes, right? Instead of having that big protrusion out back, can we move the generator and take up that whole back area? Can we put a second story on, preserve that nice Georgian feel, although the symmetry about that entrance is gone, and keep the big things? And then, for giggles, right, we're having a hard time fitting it on this site. What if it were new? And at one point, this was what I call site agnostic. Doesn't matter where it goes, find a flat piece of land. This is the square or rectangle that would plop down. Then they took a look at it at the teen center, they took a look at it somewhere else, and we'll come back to that. But this was new construction. And what these are the space programming. So if you look in the books, each one of these is an extreme space Navy, Sally Port, and those color codes pulled through all the schemes. There was criteria for evaluation. My point on all this is it was a well-done process, resulting in a well-done report. And then some of these alternates just fell off the table. Not everything, for example. And it's ranked so poorly, so I table in for a moment, but take a closer look at some of the alternates. So we looked at this, which gave the square footage, front and back. But that really does a job on the front, and I don't think a good job. I don't think it does service to the building. But we looked at it. Had some pros, right? Had a lot of cons. It addressed the space needs that are identified today, but if you're looking at this as a 50-year renovation, probably doesn't address future challenges. Creates an odd entry sequence to a borough hall, odd, massive, and it even further overcrowds the site. And a big one, disruptive to all operations during construction. So this is what I harped on a lot. At work, Rutgers has 997 buildings that we own. We will find a home for you somewhere else, right? We have room somewhere. At some point, the HVAC is going to be off, and or the power is going to be off, even if it's only a week or 2 or 3. Where do people go to do business? And maybe there's an easy answer for the administrative functions of Borough Hall. Where does the police station go when you can't be here? And so that's a tough question. And that is complicated by potential for unplanned outages, right? So my joke is the scariest thing I used to get a job site is a plumber and a sawzall, right? So what do you do when unintentionally somebody hits something, knocks out some bit of service, and in an unplanned fashion, the building can't be occupied for a day or 3, right? So questions. And they can be answered. Rent trailers and find a home, right? But it is complicated and expensive. So it is a caution to look at. Absolutely can be done. Renovations in place are done all the time. It's a tough job. We looked at Scheme 5, focus look, right? This is at the teen center. This is a 1-story building, kind of square, give it a little bit of visual interest. And this frees up space. It's a pretty simple building. Lots of pros. Certainly more expensive. We have some data to look at, and requires relocation to the teen center. We got away from this con, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then in April, we were challenged, and I think appropriately. The mayor said the thing out the front is hard, and I agree. Is there any way, through a larger addition in the back and more creative looking at renovations inside, that we can do that? Right? Absolutely legitimate challenge. So we took on the challenge, the architects took on the challenge, and figured out a way where it kind of worked from a square footage perspective. but it puts the police station on 3 different levels, takes away more of the site, and causes relocation of the generator. So this could work. Operationally, we found this to be most disruptive, right? We were operating on 3 levels.
Correct.
And then we went and said, okay, what if we didn't have to move them? So leaves the front undisturbed. Again, it's a solution for today. It barely squeaked out enough floors, enough square footage, barely squeaked that out for today. And your administrative functions on the second floor are co-mingled with police operations. So we looked, all right, what if we didn't have to move the teen center? Right, so the teen center is here. Parking for the 9/11 memorial was here. There's the 9/11 memorial. Does it fit in here? It does. A road is shown here. This is not intended. Again, this was a quick look by the architects. The entry would be off the front. There's a basement to this, so you put the things that don't need daylight in the basement. So water meters don't need daylight, electric meters don't need daylight, locker rooms don't need daylight. And then on one floor, you have a code compliance solution, Department of Corrections compliance solution, room for growth. And this isn't a palace, it's a variation on a square. So long-term view minimizes renovations to the existing building and therefore reduces the risk associated with those renovations. Provides an opportunity for something else in Borough Hall. And I'm not the governing body, so I'm not going to propose what might go in there. But now you have elbow room opportunities that you didn't have before. And we're going to come back to this in a minute, right? So something near and dear to my heart, the Minutemen. And I live right down the road from Chief Rama, right? So is there an opportunity to have this be a public safety building? Right? What's the difference between a public safety building and a police headquarters? Well, if you add a bed, if you add an apparatus bed, and a cover with power for an ambulance to stage, in event of a storm, you can move apparatus. You can have a conference room inside that is an OEM conference room. Unified command, police, fire, EMS, and whoever else needs to be there in one spot. And this additional square footage, is what I call a big box of sailboat fuel. Nothing but air, right? Conditioned to 55 degrees, some power, some stuff to hang stuff up. It's not expensive space. It's not office space. It's a place to park a fire truck. So that fits pretty readily. Adds about $250,000 to the project. So this I'm seeing isn't really showing up well. This is a visual of the addition that sticks out the front that everybody rejected. And I don't know if you're going to make this available. This is bad. It's as ugly as it looks. And nobody likes this, but the architect
We're gonna turn down a couple more lights so we can get a little better view on that.
So nobody likes this. Nobody is suggesting that this happened. But we did look at what happened. What do we do if we need the space? That's a little bit better. That's the view from the other side, from the corner of Academy Road and Speedwell. And it's just, even if you made this architecturally nicer than what this architect showed, right? I mean, this looks like this is ugly. I didn't do this. But it doesn't follow the Georgian bones that are here. It doesn't follow that nice symmetrical civic architecture that's here. And it really brings the building close to property lines. So again, I'm not a fan. I think it does as big a disservice as the rendering shown to the existing building. Out the back, I think is fine. Whether it's a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, it's not a bad addition out the back. Standalone, and the architect took some liberty here and showed some white stone. I think they were trying to suggest something civic and staid. I wouldn't do this either, But the point is, it's a pretty simple building. I don't think the roof will be flat. You'll have some slope to it, right? Shed that snow, prevent the leaks long term. What I do think though, is that this frontage that begins at the teen center and ends at the memorial, if this option were to proceed, it should be designed all as a thing, right? All as kind of a civic district, right? Don't design this building without considering the context, right? So the architect, again, put together a rendering for Mike's Road shows. I don't think it's going to look like this, but it'll be a one-story thing that with a little bit of variety, a little bit of ins and outs, doesn't look like a mobile. And I also, when you put the slope roof on, you're going to get rid of the skylights that we need. There's that fire apparatus they added on the end. So the architect did takeoffs, which are, how many square feet is what, and did cost estimates. So the numbers here are the architect's numbers, and appropriately, the construction numbers are turned into project costs. So the construction numbers are up there, and I'll ask you not to pay attention to them, because they're really almost irrelevant. The project budget is what you should focus on. So if you were doing an addition on your house, there's the dollars you're going to pay to the contractor, that's the construction dollars. But you're going to have to get an architect, and you're going to have to get permits, and you're going to buy furniture, and you're going to want a little bit of extra money in case something comes up. None of those dollars are in the contractor's number, but we still need them. So that's why project cost is the appropriate cost. Also, in project costs for renovations are temporary utility shutdowns and stuff like that. So, kind of some easy math. What's the square footage? Looking at the project cost range, there's your dollars per square foot, project dollars per square foot. And notice here, we're talking fiscal year $27, right? So right now, Jason, fiscal 26, the borough said? 25, fiscal 25. So, if in this region, construction escalates an average of 4% a year. Leave the COVID craziness aside, right? 4% a year escalation. So you need, if you're talking $100 today, it's $104 next year, and whatever that next number is, or it's compounded. So when you factor in 2 years going by to get into construction, that's why we're talking fiscal $27. It's appropriate planning. If we talk fiscal 25, you're starting behind the eight ball from the beginning. So the dollars we're talking about, fiscal 27. An estimated schedule. The borough would procure an architect, do an RFP, request for proposal process. Take about a year to design. I think that includes, this is the existing scheme, right? So that includes crawling through all the ceilings, understanding what electrical systems go where, the design strategies to minimize disruptions, to keep disruptions to the shortest period. Designing new is a lot easier than designing renovations, especially when it's high consequence renovations. So I think it'll take about a year total. The borough would bid the construction, and I think it takes about 18 months. 18 months of renovations, disruptive. Versus new, and in a moment we're going to have these slides side by side. It is bigger. There's your dollars per square foot, but it's faster. Same time to procure the architect. Design is out from scratch from new is faster. Same bid. I think construction is 15 months. Your longest lead time out of that building is the electric transformer. Order it early on, you probably have a 1-year lead time. Elevators are also notoriously long, but with a 1-story building, you don't have to worry about that. So, what I try to tell people is this is a 50-year project. We are looking today at the 50-year planning horizon. Consider growth of the borough. Consider other functions in Borough Hall as well as site streets. And think about the cost versus value. They're not the same. What I'm trying to do is present that, here's my bias comes in. I think one of these schemes has more long-term value than the other. It's at a higher cost. consider planned utility interruptions, site and building access, unplanned events, and then risk of renovations versus new. So there's a story in Essex County where Caldwell in 2021 began a renovation journey in its municipal building. It moved out into a trailer complex in its parking lot. $15,000 a month permit. All this is on NJ.com or public source available by public search. They're still there. They ran out of money. You'll read, if you read the article, the business administrator said we maxed out credit cards. I don't think they took looks like this and factored in risk when they did their work. So just earlier this year, they bought a new building and are renovating, I forget the address, renovating that for the new municipal building and library. And let's assume they're in there in late 26, early 27. That means for 5 years they were displaced at an incredible disruption and an incredible cost. So it's really just kind of a warning. If you don't do planning like this, you can end up in a bad spot. And again, I think the borough has done a really good job looking at all the options here and making informed decisions. There's the side-by-side. So new is bigger, but most efficient. New is more expensive. New is a bit more expensive per square foot. Faster. And where does it go from here? So Mike, I think it's probably you. This is what we're doing right now, right?
Yeah, so, thank you, Dave. 2.5 years ago, when we started this project, interviewing different architects to come in, there was an RFP to, bring in different firms to look at what our project could be. We ended up with the Musel Group, like Dave said. I knew when I engaged in this project 2.5 years ago that I was going to be in front of the community, doing our public tours, speaking council meetings, going to the farmers market, and ultimately at a presentation like this. What are we doing? We're impacting the community both financially and with some construction. A couple weeks ago, we had a stakeholders meeting. We had residents from throughout the community sharing the word of our plans. We had residents from Littleton Road that would abut the proposed location if there was a new build. We had residents from Academy Road. We knew that construction was going to be a big impact on the individuals around us while construction is ongoing, but also to the community when we have to close the municipal building for a couple of days to do HVAC work or electrical work, and those same considerations for the department. How do we operate? Where do we take prisoners? Where does our staff change for duty in the morning and the evening? So yes, socializing the project, again, trying to get the word out, because I'm not going to operate in style. I'm going to move forward with the project, and the mayor and council can't make a decision for the community without sharing and being transparent. There's a referendum on the November ballot. Why we're up the leading into it now is presenting these programs so you can make an informed decision for us. As we move forward in the process, we will have to go back out if there is an approval to engage with the architecture firm, consider this plans. Like, these are a lot of proposals right now. Nothing's set in stone, so anything that you saw in a diagram or a drawing could change drastically over the next couple of months. This is the question that will actually appear on the ballot. Probably already have your sample ballot in hand, or maybe you voted by mail already, but this is exactly how the question reads. You saw the numbers that Dave presented. We're right around the 7.3, 7.5 in our low frame. We rounded up to 8. Again, we provide for some of those contingencies. And the upper bill was around 11.5, 11.7 million. And we upped that to 12 million again to cover some incidental costs. What are we talking about? For the average homeowner at the upper rate of $12 million, it's $253 a year, paid by bond over the course of 20 years. So again, one of the reasons why we come out to socialize this project, because we are asking for an investment in the law enforcement agency of your town. As Dave added, it wouldn't just be if we moved to a new site, it would be something considered for EMS and fire as well. You know, living on that side, this side of the underpass, sometimes we have an inability to get services timely. Normally we're at 2 or 3 minute response time for our police officers. That changes when we have to go around over Hanover Avenue or up over Grandis Avenue to Old Dover and come out to Route 10. So this allows us to provide services on both sides of the underpass. We did take a look at with our CFO. The tax impact for Scheme 2 would be $168 per resident over the course of 20 years, about $14 a month, and a total overall cost of $3,360. Scheme 7 is that larger cost, $253 per year on the assessed home in Morris Plains, $21 a month, for a total per resident of $5,060 over the course of that 20 year. And there's some fluctuation in those numbers based on rates and bonds and things of that nature, but that's why we're Dave for the architect, that's why we're with our CFO, because I'm not the numbers guy at all. With that being said, we'd like to open the floor to questions, comments, concerns. Again, please take the opportunity to schedule a tour of the building. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Everybody that's come and said it's eye-opening to see the current conditions of the building and what our officers have to work in. Like I said when I started, this was motivated by providing the best service to the community and also by our officers' safety. So with that, we'll turn the microphone back over to all of you. If there's questions, comments, if there's something that you want to hear from or you don't want to ask the question, my email is on the card. You can certainly email me. We can engage that way. But again, please take the opportunity to come out and see the building firsthand. Get you out for the Yankee game. Sir.
What is the average value of the home in Morris Plains that all these numbers are based on?
So, according to our CFO, the average assessed value of a home in Morris Plains is $460,732. Yes, ma'am.
Will you be applying for grants?
We are going to look at other opportunities to help with the funding. That's not my specialty, but we are looking at other options to defray the cost, yes. Sir?
You said you got a $12 million bond, but, and I could be misreading this, the construction cost range can go up to $9.98 million, and the project cost range is over $11.6. That's over $20 million. So what's the difference between 12 and over 20? Where does that come from?
Dave, can you answer that question?
I could be reading it, but I'm not understanding this.
So can you repeat the question?
Okay, so you said the bond is around $12 million. That's for the new construction, correct? So isn't the right side of the new building?
This is the range. It could range from 10 million to 11.6 million. So
That's total, you don't add those two together?
no, it's the range.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, so what we did is we did an estimate based on the architect's numbers.
Okay, so
It
I
said
see.
it might be 5% less, it might be 5% more.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying. Appreciate that. Yes?
What happens when under the trestle is flooded and you can't get through to the town?
Well, we have the fire department still on maintaining that presence in the current municipal building. And just like when we have, when we're aware of storms now, we do post staff on each side of the underpass, so you'll be able to have services on both sides.
Obviously, there's gonna be a cost to renovate or whatever you're gonna do with the existing building. Where does that money come from? Whatever the, let's say you move, you're gonna do a building, you're gonna have your current building and the fire department sitting there, what happens to that building?
So
And where does that money come from?
So this looks at the first step. So where the police station moves out of, where the coat of paint is happening, right? It has air conditioning works, electrical works. So it's not necessarily a capital project to move into the building as it is.
So we know what's moving in there, you know?
I don't.
Because I'm sure there's gonna be further renovations to do, nothing's a code thing. No offense, but it's gonna be additional cost there, but you're talking about that's step two, I guess, phase two.
All right.
Yes.
Just curious, if the referendum fails, what are the scenarios to accomplish the renovation?
Yeah, great question. You know, right now, like Dave said, it's a habitable location. We do apply for waivers for the Department of Corrections to kind of get us through. But, you know, to the best of my knowledge, if the referendum does fail, we can't go back out for a public question like this for 2 years.
Would this plan be basically dead if?
Yeah, the plan would kind of just die here until somebody else took up the mantle maybe in 2 years.
So, Mike, if the referendum passes, then something's going to happen.
Correct.
When does the bond start and when does the tax impact?
That's when I engage with our CFO and dive into that, you know, when we do that again. We know full well that there's a lot of communication that has to go on with the community and say, okay, now that we're moving forward. So really, after the referendum passes, and so the question, it goes back to the borough council to decide how we're going to proceed with which options. So again, that's a little bit further down the road than we've gotten ourselves. But you know, that's the reason why we wanted to engage with all of you, so you can speak to your council members and say exactly what your appetite is. We originally wanted to design the question so we could go out and say, Morris Plains, here's option A, on-site renovations, option B, off-site, or C, do nothing. We're fine with it as it is. Unfortunately, the way county clerk works with elections, we can't have a question built like that. It has to be kind of open-ended, yes or no. And that's why, again, I want to engage the community and get your input so we can have these conversations and not pick something that's not decided. Yes?
How are you going to communicate what you shared with us today? How are you going to communicate it to the people who are out there, the people of Morris Plains, who didn't get that this meeting was even going to take place?
Yeah, we're live streaming.
Communication skills today, okay? And
Yes.
it's really, really good.
Well, we're trying to do our best, right? We put it on social media, for the Morris Plains Police Department. It's also on.
How about mailing? How about something for the old folks?
Sure.
People who don't get on the internet.
Sure. Yeah, it's in the borough email blast weekly. Fridays it's going out. I'm sorry, see you right there in the back. We're going to the senior meetings that are held monthly to share that with them. We're at the farmers market. We're trying to, again, I'm trying not to use the town budget as a way of almost like selling this idea.
If you share that information on a piece of paper with every person, not with town, that information, with people in Morris Plains who would look at it and say yes or no, gee, it's a good idea, yes, I'll do it. Instead of going on the internet or going into, oh, let's present this to these people. Yeah, I hear it, I see it. Am I going to remember all this?
Right.
No. I'd like to see it on a piece of paper. I'd like to see that.
I appreciate that.
Just not me, everything.
I appreciate that.
Because we're, I live on Briarcliff.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Briarcliff Road.
Okay.
Uncle Frank,
Yeah.
Well, we had those big, massive warehouses, right, that we didn't even know were going with the building. And all of a sudden, poof, they appeared. And they caused noise and all that other stuff. Okay, they're there now. But we didn't know about the planning of them. In our neighborhood, we were all affected by the noise, by the trees going down, by the whatever. And it just really gets under my skin that there's no communication out there that people can look at and say, gee, that's a great idea. Or no, I don't like it.
Yep. Step one was obviously this, is coming out and getting in front of everybody to try and share as much as possible.
Okay.
But point well taken, I appreciate it, Doc. That'll help us. Thank you.
You said one's to remodel the existing, and two is brand new. But on the referendum vote, you're only going to get remodel or new, not do nothing. This is the third option.
Well, if,
So that means one of these is gonna happen no matter what.
no, if you vote, if the vote is no
Oh, I
to
see.
suspend either, then we'll go back to the drawing board. Yes?
Okay, a question for both of you, but maybe mostly for Mr. Schultz. From the description of the medium option where we renovate, between the disruptions, the possible unexpected happenings that would disrupt things even more, and the fact that it's not active for the future, I heard that as that's not really a good option. Would that be a fair way of characterizing it?
No, I think it is a good option, right? And I don't want my bias, I think the new is easier, right? But and I don't want my bias to make it come across that the renovations are impossible. They're not. The renovations will require really good attention during design and extraordinarily close coordination with the borough administration, police department, and fire department during construction. And that is easier said than done. That will have to happen. And then there's a question of when the building is not occupiable by code, right? Fire systems are down, fire protection systems are down, there's no HVAC, there's no power. Where do the functions go? That's a big question that's not answered as part of the renovations. That's not the architect's job, right? So there's a parallel component of figuring out what that is. All that is done on a daily basis by design and construction professionals all over. Which carries more risk? The renovations in place carries more risk. So absolutely renovations to be done. They're both good schemes. If anybody, if you walk away with anything, the borough did a good job looking at all sorts of things. It is a good option. Do I think it's the best long-term 50-year view? I don't, but that's my personal opinion, right? And again, I do this like all the time. And I'm going to pay $253 more per household, but I'm playing with other people's money here, right? And I'm being blunt, right? So it's easiest and it's fastest and it's a good long-term product for new. It is a good renovation solution. Has a shorter planning horizon and more disruptions, but I don't want anybody to think that the borough didn't take a close look at this and come up with something that can work. Which is closer to ideal. I think the new is closer to ideal. The other one is still good.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Chief, if the building said, is there going to be a mailing going out to every home in Morris Plains with those figures on there so everyone knows what's going on since they can attend it? I apologize, I came in late.
Sorry.
People from a baseball game, that thing just ended. I mean, there's 100 families out there, that aren't even out, that don't know about this. And then question number two, you can answer that after I do. Question number two is, will the tax increase start from day one? If it's going to take 2 or 3 years to build this thing down the road, or is the tax increase going to happen after the project's completed?
So I'm taking notes as we go, because as questions come up that I don't know the answer to, I'm going to come back to you, because I am going to repeat this conversation again on the 28th of October. We're going to do a very similar presentation, answering questions that I just can't answer for you. So I have to engage with the mayor and borough council to see if that's something that they're willing to make an expenditure on. We do have a budget line for this type of project, so, but again, I'll defer to the mayor and council and the town attorney. Like, is this something we can send out in the mailer without, I'm trying to avoid pushing one idea of the project to the other, right? I want the community to help us make a decision on what we're going to do. So obviously, I feel the need for our officer safety and for our community, but, so I will get back to you on that question.
And will the next meeting be at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, so all the support committees will attend as well?
Yeah, it's going to be a 7 o'clock meeting, but, that's why we're also live streaming as well, so if people can't, it's going to get recorded and replayed, so we're going to try and get that out there as well. So if you couldn't attend, there's multiple ways to view what we did here this evening.
Why is the mayor not here?
He is. This continues.
Yeah, do you know how the 253 annual cost is factored for like nursing homes and
Great question. So, if you are a senior in Morris Plains with your tax frozen, again, the question I asked with our CFO, is if your taxes are frozen by the state, you would pay the assessment initially and it would be refunded to you, in the end of the year. The other question that came up during one of our public presentations is what happens when the school goes out for referendum again in 2, 4, 5, 6 years? Had meetings with the superintendent, no plans for any type of scheduled school rebuilding, remodifications, anything like that for now or the distant future. Again, all those things that dovetail together that I feel, we have to ask questions on.
Chief, thank you for this forum tonight. For the holding cell that you currently have, how long are people currently in there for?
How long are they currently in there for? Approximately 2 to 3 hours, depending on processing time frames. We have a state mandated limit of 6 hours. After 6 hours, we have to start looking at alternate housing options, feeding them, what have you. So,
And you mentioned also that the crunch for the number of officers. How many officers are normally on at the same time? 5 or 6?
your day shift is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. In theory, there should be 3 officers, a sergeant and 2 patrol officers. Paid time off, vacation, things like that. Sometimes we go to a 2-officer minimum, but the traffic officer that we added, and again, thank you to the borough for doing that, recognizing the need. Now we have that 3rd officer that works a modified schedule, an 8-hour day, so we can pitch it as well on increasing calls for service.
Right. So the officers, there's, you said 2 or 3 per shift?
Generally 2 to 3, yeah.
So is 1 or 2 of them are circulating around the town?
Yes.
Very few officers are actually inside.
Inside internally on the day shift is myself, 2 lieutenants, 2 detectives.
Okay, so it's normally 5.
And then the administrative staff, my administrative assistant, a records clerk. So there's, obviously during the daytime hours, a little bit more staff on site.
One more question. So we have also on that side, we have the annex, and we have the rent house that the borough is providing. Were any of the site plans try to incorporate that space into?
Certainly something we've heard, like why can we maintain this space and move, north, take out the red house and add fire bays on the side? Yeah, those are certainly options that we didn't consider initially, because we were looking at dealing with that space. But something that could be considered, yes. Yes?
Chief, if the referendum does pass, tell us the steps that follow to make a final decision about which of the options get selected.
So that we'll come back to the borough council, have a discussion about, again, why we're holding these meetings, what, kind of feedback we're getting from the community. Do we have an appetite for renovations, or do we have an appetite for a new building? So, it really goes back to the mayor and council for, further discussion from there.
And if it does pass and for unforeseen reasons, the project goes materially over budget, what are the options?
That's a conversation I have to have with the mayor and council and, consider, options with our CFO. We don't think we're pretty solid with our numbers. Again, looking at, not just building for 2025, but looking at, assessing the value of that cost for 2027. So we're pretty satisfied with our numbers. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Jason Garber, Mayor of Morris Plains, proud Mayor of Morris Plains. Just one thing, to piggyback on Mike's, this is not my thing whatsoever. This is a non-binding question, so either way that it goes, whether it's turned down or whether it's voted for, the council really make that decision whether they want to move forward or not, right? So it's non-binding, they call it non-binding, so we have to see how this goes, this question goes, and really have to see the council make that final decision.
So Jason, if it comes out as a 50-50, the council's going to make a decision.
It's possible,
If the council says yes, is there then further referendum to approve money?
No, I think this really doesn't even have to go to a referendum right now. The council could tomorrow decide to do one or the other or nothing. We just really take the temperature of the residents of Morris Plains to see what the appetite is for moving forward either with renovation or new buildings. So,
And the council could go
when I started with 2.5 years ago, I knew we were gonna end up in this type of forum, engaging in conversation, right? So there is, to my knowledge, I'm an executive board member of the County Chiefs Association. So at least 3 or 4 municipal departments in Morris County have engaged in renovation or new construction of buildings during the time that we started this process. None of those townships or boroughs went out to a referendum. I give credit to the mayor and council and our work on this project because we want to know what this borough wants. Right? We can't just, assess a $12 million tax and, here we are, we didn't want this, we didn't have any input. I knew going into this project, I would be here speaking to all of you, getting feedback as best we could. That's the reason for the ballot question. Yes?
Is the trajectory then adjusted at all in accordance to how people respond to the referendum?
I don't understand your question.
So if you had overwhelming no, or overwhelming yes for that matter, is the approach then from the...
Oh, yeah, certainly. If it was an overwhelming no, the project would stop, right? Nobody has an appetite to do anything that isn't, desired by the community.
But technically, if 100% hypothetically say no, every 2,600 homes in North Plains or 7,000 people that oppose, the council can still say, hey, we're still going to build this police station, even though the town said no, and spend $12 million, $15 million, $20 million, whatever it is, on the town. Is that correct?
That, like the mayor said, it's a non-binding vote, so they can move forward, but knowing, I think, the way that I know your council members, I don't think that would happen. If there's nothing further, I will stick around if you have questions that you didn't want to ask in the public setting. That happens, right? That you're in the high school class, you don't want to raise your hand for if you're embarrassed. I will stay around. My email's on my card. Please come take the tour. Spend half an hour with me, one of our officers, and see what we're currently living with. Please. So our last scheduled tour is before the next council meeting, October 16th. We start at 5:30. But if that doesn't work for you for some reason, I'm in the office Monday through Friday from about 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. You send me an email, chief or call the department if that's easier. Chief, can I come in for a tour? Thursday at 9 a.m. Absolutely, I will be there.